I'm Catherine Lampert, and I've come to talk about Capillary Xiphopagus Among Us for a few minutes. I saw one of the first iterations of this in 1989 when it was joined with Les Arts. Tunga I met through Guy Brett, and he was the first artist I invited to exhibit at the Whitechapel when I arrived as director. He was going to work in the smaller space because the two large galleries were for an exhibition which my predecessor organized called Works of Sean Scully, his color block paintings. Tunga started to send drawings to the Whitechapel from Rio, and then eventually he sent a list of what was going to be in a container, and that included the Les Arts materials, large sheets of steel and copper and lead, and the trusses and the magnets and the iron filings, all the materials he was going to use for this brand new important work. And then at the bottom of the list was a large wig. And he also gave us an instruction that we should engage identical twins, and they should be around the age between 8 and 12, and they would be wearing a white shirt, and in this case white leggings and tennis shoes. So he arrived, and he began to install the work. And then on the opening night, which was for both exhibitions, the girls came and they were wearing this incredible wig, joined from one to another. And now that I've seen the work 7 times, the last one in 2018, I realize it's very important for the girls to be not 8, but more like 11, 12, when they're sort of arriving at puberty. They're distancing themselves from their families. They have a certain inner life and character and perhaps indifference, in this case, to an audience. And meanwhile, the visitors to the Whitechapel were absolutely transfixed by these wandering girls, as something they didn't expect. Later on, for instance, at the Tate, the girls were very young, and their father was trailing them a bit like a chaperone, and they were too self-conscious and looking too much at the visitors and nervous. So it's very delicate. It's also delicate what situation you see it in. And in some ways, the more uncanny the situation, for instance, at Frieze Masters in London, was okay because it was a shishi audience, and then this was cutting right through it. I mean, Tunga's work, I've been very fortunate because apart from the exhibition, in 2003, I began working on this book, which is very much a collaboration. It's a collaboration between Tunga and myself, between Fernando, his assistant, Adana, between Tatiana Grinberg, the editor, and most of all, of course, Charles Kozak, who had kept the faith to produce this book. And if you read it, you see how, with hindsight, you see how could Tunga, and after all this piece was begun when he was in his early 30s, how could he have known that everything would tie together? So the idea of twins, like his own mother and aunt, a binary approach, all sorts of double things go right through his work, and so do very sophisticated themes, as well as very kind of natural and biological ones, like teeth and hair, scalp, the parts of the body. The other thing I wanted to say before I finish is that it's hard to place Tunga in terms of exhibitions. There will be a retrospective, I understand, in 2022, but Tunga, at the end of his life, what he wanted to do was show in odd places where people would hardly expect it, like in the bottom of a fountain or in a cave or whatever. And he was trying to say to us that life isn't about going to a deserted island and making love all day and living a wonderful hedonistic life. It's not that he didn't know about that, but he had bigger ambitions for people. He said that the difficulty in life is actually I'll quote him. He said, "The real problem of how to be a human being is the melancholy of being together, the melancholy of being alone, the melancholy of continuity, and the possibility of establishing continuity between two continuous bodies. And I think we see that very much in this wonderful work. Thank you.